Part 2 of the Update 8.9 refines will be covering Nereus Keaton, Legendary Atri, and Legendary Female Violet. Yes, Violet has 2 refines for 2 ults this month. Atri and Violet also have remix skills, we'll talk about those as well. Nereus Keaton has been generating some buzz, and for good reason. He's a green beast infantry unit with very high HP and great attack and defense. He will sacrifice speed and res, but this refine doesn't ignore those stats completely. Resolved Fang has gotten a major facelift. It grants +3 flat defense. If foe initiates or has minus 75% HP, Keaton gets +5 speed, defense, and res, and inflicts -5 defense on the foe. He will deal 20% defense as true damage, and this applies to AoE specials as well. Keaton gets a free fall up attack, and he neutralizes attack and defense debuffs during combat. As an older beast unit, Keaton will get access to the updated Infantry Beast Transformation bonus. This means he can get tempo and +7 true damage on special trigger. Previously, Resolved Fang granted +5 defense, inflicted -5 defense, and had a max of 7 true damage based on a defense comparison. Now, Keaton has a set true damage based on his defense stat only. He also gets a free follow-up, attack and defense debuff neutralization, and even +5 speed and res. His activation condition always works on enemy phase now. It's a very good upgrade so far. Further refined, if within 3 spaces of an ally, Keaton gets another +5 speed, defense, and res, and inflicts -5 defense on the foe. He gets flat damage reduction equal to 15% defense and reduces the effects of deep wounds by 50% during combat. Including the deep wounds counter, the last part is just Breath of Life 4. Keaton heals as combat begins. If he has more defense than the foe, Keaton gains a base 20% max HP with a bonus 4 HP for every point of higher defense. If Keaton loses the defense check, he still heals 20% max HP. This healing normally has a limit of 40% max HP, but if Keaton is hit by instant damage from skills such as Flared Sparrow, then he can heal for any amount of instant damage taken, assuming his defense is high enough. Not only does Keaton get a revamped base effect, but he literally gets Breath of Life 4. Unlike the C-Skill version, this healing is for Keaton only. Overall, Keaton now gains +10 speed, defense, and res, and inflicts -10 defense. That's a 20 defense advantage, which is meant to help win defense checks for Breath of Life's max healing potential. Of course, Keaton also scales off defense for true damage and flat DR. Including the debuff neutralization part, this is extremely close to Brave Dimitri's refine. Very impressive for sure. Keaton's refine can easily take advantage of the Hot Lagoose friend builds. They'll have 40% defense as true damage, which is massive, and then 35% defense as flat DR. He can run Bonfire, and if he transforms, then the tempo effect ensures Bonfire gets charged when getting hit, only countered by Scowl. Keaton can use the Beast Sacred Seal to transform. It's kind of like running the Tempo Seals. If you want to use Emblem Ike's Ring, Keaton needs times Pulse, otherwise you can run a self-buffing skill like Oath 4 or Pledge. If you were to go with Pledge, the Breath type cooldown can charge Ignis instead. Keaton already has Breath of Life, which is a common pairing for this build. If you want Distant Counter, the bonus doubler can be used, otherwise there are lots of good options like Earthfire Boost for even more HP, or a Finish skill for extra true damage and healing. It will require teammates, but Creation Pulse in this setup can counter Scowl. For another setup, you could instead run Fierce Beast as a 2 cooldown DR piercing special. If you run Beast Threaten, Keaton can inflict defense debuffs and panic, plus he gets times Pulse. If you were to run Emblem Mard's Ring, Keaton could have Fierce Beast ready, and this would give him some player phase pressure. You could use Infantry Pulse 4 in that setup too. For A and B skills, there are lots of options. Keaton can go for a % DR B skill like Counter Roar or Guard 4. However, Reopening is another flat DR option. It's stronger if the user only attacks once, but Keaton does get extra speed and a free follow-up. You could combo the Guard part with Tempo when transformed. If you got Divine Veins, Fortifications can be easier to use for Distant Counter, otherwise it's a mixed phase option to make Keaton's player phase a little more threatening. Same idea with Beast Threaten. For some other skills, Beast Assault is a 50% DR piercing option, not reliant on specials. Guard Echo pairs nicely with Tempo, and Panic Smoke is fun for mixed phase brawls. If you got Felix, Keaton can use Endless Tempest just to run in there if you want. Nereus Keaton definitely wins most improved for this batch of refines. They basically gave him a new base effect, and then Breath of Life 4 on a free-to-play unit is pretty wild. Keaton's not gonna share his healing, but that's okay. If you're not in a rush to build him, you may want to wait a little longer for Book 8 to end. We still have a couple more Book 8 Beast characters who will certainly get to play as soon. They may come with more Beast-only skills. Onto the legendary remixes and refines. First up is Atri, who I still can't believe is not a mythic hero. Atre's back in time for the Book 5 Tempest side plot. She's a flying green mage who has good attack and is bulkier than a typical mage. Still doesn't want to tank arrows though. Starting with Grim Broker, it's got some updates. This tome grants +3 flat attack, and Atri gets Kanto 2 for 4 turns like the other Book 5 characters. If Atri initiates or is solo +1 ally, she inflicts -6 attack and res and -5 speed. Atri makes a free fall up attack, deals true damage equal to 15% attack, and heals 7 HP after combat. Grim Broker can now work next to one ally on the enemy phase, which is good. Atri isn't blazing fast, but she gets speed debuffs now. Clearly, -6 speed was just too over the line. In addition to her free follow-up, she gets a bonus true damage part and heals after combat. For the Refine, every turn, Atri now inflicts -7 attack and res debuffs, the Sabotage status, and the Schism status on the closest foes. It then spreads out 2 spaces. If above 25% HP, Atri inflicts more attack, speed, and res debuffs equal to 5 plus the number of foes within 3 spaces of her target. This includes the target, so it's going to be -6 debuffs at the lowest. Atri will also get flat damage reduction equal to X, and you can double this amount if an enemy special triggers. X is going to be equal to 3 times the total number of positive statuses on Atri, plus the number of negative statuses on the foe. If you got 4 total status effects, Atri can get 12 flat DR max. Grimbroker's Refine bumps up Atri's defensive power with flat DR and healing. She also now has support capabilities with -7 attack and res debuffs, and then Sabotage will double those numbers. Atri brings Schism support. Schism neutralizes Triangle Attack, Dual Strike, and Pathfinder statuses on the upcoming banner. Thea is bringing Triangle Attack back, so something to watch out for. I believe this will be the first time Schism is on something besides the Tier 4 Ruse skills. With her 2 penalties, Atri gets 6 flat damage reduction. Try to get her another 2, either with buffing Atri or debuffing the enemy team. As part of her remix, Atri gets Divine Recreation 2. This unique B skill works if initiating or if the foe is above half health. Atri inflicts -4 stats on the foe. She gets 50% DR piercing on every hit, and she has 50% damage reduction herself for first attacks with an S. Atri will then use the damage she reduces for an empowered counterattack. This empowered damage won't count both brave hits if needed, it only counts the first one taken. Like many others, Atri combines %DR with flat DR. She has a fair amount of attack debuffs, I believe -16 attack in combat, and then -7 attack is a debuff. Sabotage will turn that into -14 total, so altogether it's around -30 attack and debuffs. This also applies to resistance, and Atri ups her firepower with DR piercing with extra true damage. If she takes a hit, her next counter will also be stronger, assuming her DR effects are active. If you like bulky mages, Atri will continue that niche. As part of her remix, Atri was going to get Deadly Miasma. This C-skill inflicts -5 stats and neutralizes field buffs when you initiate. It has Savage Blow's 7 splash damage, and Miasma Tiles will apply the same stat debuffs. Atri has a lot of debuffs to stack with, and neutralizing field buffs just helps further. Atri can get Kanto 2, so she can attack, hide behind her haze tiles as needed. If you want mixed phase stats, Catch 4 is probably the best option. You could lean into player phase with remote A skills for a little more %DR. Flared A skills can drop flame tiles, but you may not want to run that with Deadly Miasma. Atri's not doing anything super fancy besides bringing lots of debuffs, 50% DR and 50% DR piercing. She does want to inflict or gain more stats effects though for flat damage reduction. If you get the upcoming Air Orders for C skill, that grants charge and warp statuses. With Sabotage and Schism on the enemy, that's 4 statuses to get Atri's 12 flat damage reduction. Charge plus Kanto 2 can also create some very fun plays, but you gotta do it in the first 4 turns. Guidance 4 skills wouldn't be bad either to ferry allies around. For other skills, Atri can use Close Counter if you want. She's a mage that can afford to lose some defense from Stir Crystalline Water. More front resistance could be used for something like Ploy debuffs, although Atri's not going to be hitting the highest res foes out there. It's just another support option to go with her new Refine. If you want self-warping, Oath 4 is quite nice with the self-buffs. While Deadly Miasma is good, Panic Smoke can be also very strong. Full Penalty Doubler stacks with Sabotage, and both of them take Panicked Field buffs into account. This is why I say debuff neutralization is very good to have, because otherwise things can get very out of hand. Just to list some other fun skills, Mastery can provide Kanto 2 after turn 4, but I don't know if that's worth it. If you wanted this, Atri could also use Iode Shield and maybe Squad Ace's extra HP to help with per % DR efforts. In conclusion, Atri does get a nice refine and remix, not too fancy, but she does provide debuff support, and she has access to Schism. 50% DR piercing also, is very valuable. We started with a Byleth Refine, and we're going to end it with a Byleth Refine. This time, Legendary Female Byleth gets her Refine and Remix. She's a blue infantry mage with good offensive stats. Professorial Guide got a big change to its range condition. Allies within 3 rows or 3 columns will gain +4 stats and full tempo effects during their combat. For Byleth, she has Slaying, and if initiating or an ally is within 3 rows or 3 columns, then Byleth gets +5 stats, 30% DR for first attacks with an S, and then full tempo for herself. This Byleth is one of the few ways to get tempo support. She extends her range to 3 rows or 3 columns, which means Byleth can support from across the map now. If you want to do stuff like Gale Force, then no guard support is very useful. Plus for stats also doesn't hurt. For the refined portion, if above 25% HP, Byleth gains bonus stats equal to 5 plus the number of allies within 3 rows or 3 columns, times 2. If you have 3 allies in range, that's another plus 11 to all stats. In addition, Byleth gets true damage equal to 20% speed, and like earlier, she once again gets DR piercing specials. Legendary Female Byleth does not get Sublime Heaven, but she can now pierce %DR without other skills. She will focus on specials, and that's showcased by her new remixed Goddess Bearer 2. This unique C skill activates every turn if an ally is within 3 rows or 3 columns. Byleth gives herself the rare +7 attack and speed field buff. She gets a no follow-up status, and then the warp status for 1 turn. For combat, Byleth can get another +4 stats, and then she's creeping on Brave Tiki's territory. Byleth gets -1 instant cooldown before attacking, and she has Scowl without any reg checking. To summarize, Legendary Female Byleth can get up to +20 to all stats if 3 allies are in her 3 row 3 column range. She has Sling, no follow-up, tempo, warping, DR piercing specials, and +7 attack and speed field buffs. Byleth has 30% DR for first attacks, and then she pulls out the instant cooldown and Scowl effects. Seems like she's following Legendary Male Byleth as a special focused mage. They have similar shared effects, with male offering no follow-up support and female having tempo support. As far as rarity, tempo is definitely a lot harder to come by. For her new playstyle, Legendary Female Byleth can instantly proc her 2 cooldown special and pierce %DR skills. Slaying Ruptured Sky with the -1 instant cooldown will be ready immediately, but is countered by enemy Scowl. For her remix, Byleth gets attack and speed finish for free, extra true damage and healing, which should be active since she can now charge Ruptured Sky immediately. If Byleth needs a second attack, she has no follow-up to double when outspeeding. Thanks to Scowl, she can prevent enemy burst specials from hitting her back. She only has 30% DR, but she potentially gains +20 to all stats, so she can definitely tank an incoming basic. With no guard and tempo effects, Byleth taking a counterattack will recharge Ruptured Sky. She can then proc it on her follow-up, and it's another DR piercing hit. For the B slot, Byleth has low speed and res. That's a fine option, but you could go for stuff like Occultist Strike or copy Brave Byleth with speed preempt for advantage. Desperation 4 also works for back-to-back hits. If you want extra %DR protection, Byleth could run Remote Sparrow or something like Guard 4. I wouldn't consider this Byleth super bulky like Atri, but she does gain +20 stats rather easily, and with Scowl that hopefully prevents an enemy special counter. It may not be needed, but Scowl, Tempo, and Guard make it extremely hard for the enemy to ever reach a special. Tempo and Guard can maybe prevent defensive specials from recharging since Scowl doesn't affect those. Something to consider because defensive specials may become more popular in just a bit. For some other skills, Byleth can run Flash Sparrow or Flashing Blade for cooldown. She doesn't have to run Ruptured Sky. Maybe you want to run Desperation with something like Luna. If you want to try, Byleth could go for a bulkier build, close counter, bonus double stacking. Again, maybe something like Guard 4 for %DR. If you were to run Flare, Byleth can tank 1 hit, and she's going to get -1 cooldown charge thanks to tempo. Before countering back, Flare gets charged up by the -1 instant cooldown, and it can maybe heal Byleth if needed. Overall, Legendary Female Byleth got a very nice upgrade to her tempo support. Its long range effect is very useful. For combat, she's been pushed toward an instant special proccing playstyle like Male Byleth. No Sublime Heaven, but Female Byleth can get DR piercing for any special of your choosing. If you do need to get hit back, she now has some %DR and Scowl. For the most part, it's a perfectly solid Refine and Remix. Can't really complain about instant cooldown and Scowl, although even this Byleth isn't exactly immune to Scowl effects herself. That might be an issue. That'll be it for part 2 of the new refines for update 8.9. Let me know your thoughts, and if you're a Keaton fan, then you should definitely be very happy. If you missed part 1, we talked about the Choose Your Legend 6 units. They cut in line for their refines a bit early. That's all I got for this video. Next up, we're going to talk about the Ice Tribe banner. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.